Newcastle United are out of the Champions League. And it didn't really surprise me because the teams they played in their group, AC Milan, Dortmund, and PSG, yeah, it's been a disastrous spell in the Champions League for Newcastle, and yeah, I expected more from them. If I'm really honest, I expected more. Uh, Maybe for them to win against a side that an AC Milan side that hasn't won a Champions League in over 20 years. Um, and it's obviously, you know, Newcastle aren't the best side in the world by any stretch, and I do think Newcastle could have done it, but in an easier group. Like, put them in a group with Celtic, um, or put them in a group with Celtic or Leipzig, or like, Rangers, and they probably progress to the round of 16. Obviously, Celtic and Rangers won't be in the same group. Put them in a group like that with like Leipzig, Celtic, and they probably get to the round of 16. But in a group like they were in, they had no chance. They had no chance at all. Well, they beat PSG 4-1, but that was their only win of the whole group stage tournament. And I do think Newcastle could have done better than they did. They did lose last night to AC Milan 2-1. Samuel Chukwueze scored in the 84th minute, and that basically knocked Newcastle out of the Champions League. So, yeah, they're not going to get European football this season. That was basically their only shot at getting European football last season, because they're not going to get it this season. And, they tried their best, and sometimes you just don't succeed at these things. And I don't think European football is for Newcastle, because they clearly can't do it in Europe. And I think, obviously, well, we were meant to think, Newcastle are back. Newcastle are back. They're going to win the Champions League. Really? Some people even thought that they'd win the Premier League this season. What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, just because they've bought Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, and Bruno Guimaraes, yeah, they're going to win the Premier League easily, yeah. No, that is not how it works. Yeah. I think football fans get way too ahead of themselves sometimes. Like Newcastle didn't spend a lot of money and bought some great players, but that would never be enough to win the Premier League. Like Man City, over the years, have bought the likes of Aguero, Haaland, Sterling, Stones, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, Kyle Walker, yeah, they obviously Ruben Diaz as well in the defence, and that's how they've won titles, by buying professionally good players at football. But before Guimaraes signed for Newcastle, I didn't even know he was. I'm going to be totally honest, I didn't even know he was. Kieran Trippier obviously played for Atletico Madrid before signing for Newcastle. But sometimes Newcastle, I think they have been given a reality check here, because, yeah, now we know what kind of a team they really are, and I just don't think they could have done it. Yeah, I I never banked on Newcastle getting to the round of 16 and didn't think it would happen. Um, they had a good go at it. They drew to Milan in the first game of the whole group stage. They won 4-1 to PSG. That was probably their highlight of the Champions League this season. They still have the FA Cup to go for, and they still have the League Cup to go for. They've beaten both Man United and Man City this season in the League Cup, so they could even go for that. I wouldn't necessarily say this season is over, but I think Nick Pope being out injured plays a big part in it. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say this season is over just because they've been knocked out of the Champions League. They could still go for the League Cup. I'd say that's their aim this season. If you win the League Cup, you get Conference League qualification, I think. Yeah, I think with these cup competitions like FA Cup, Carabao Cup, yeah, fair enough. If you win the Champions League, you're in it next season. That's fair enough. But the League Cup has got nothing to do with the Conference League. So it should be if you finish 7th in the Premier League or might finish wherever in other leagues that you get into the Conference League, not by winning the League Cup. So what if are going to be relegated Sheffield United won the League Cup this... Did I say FA Cup or League Cup? I think I said League Cup. What if the relegated Sheffield United won the League Cup this season, which they won't because I think they're knocked out of it already. What if they won the League Cup, got relegated? How would that work then? They'd be in the Conference League, but they'd be playing in the Championship. How does that work? Doesn't make any sense. It literally does not make any sense. Yeah. Newcastle, I don't think they were ever that good. I think fans just hyped them up too much. Obviously had an amazing season last season under Eddie Howe. But I think Eddie Howe will soon be gone because I don't think he will be at Newcastle for much longer. And I don't think they'll play particularly well this season. Yeah, they got that 5-1 win against Aston Villa first game of the season. That was probably one of the highlights of the season. But apart from that, what have they actually done this season? Yeah, they might still win the League Cup. But they haven't won a trophy yet this season. I mean, we are only in December. They're not going to win the Champions League because they're out of that. Probably won't win the FA Cup. Might not win the League Cup. So they're not guaranteed to win anything this season. But they might do. It's a might. It probably won't happen, but it might do. Yeah. Newcastle have been knocked out of the Champions League and they have now got a reality check. This is the real Newcastle team that we are seeing. I just don't see how that was ever going to work. Newcastle in the Champions League. It's like, I don't know, San Marino being in the World Cup. It wouldn't happen, would it? San Marino are marginally worse. They are marginally worse than Newcastle. Well, by a lot, actually. They're worse by a lot. But it is like if San Marino got in the World Cup, they'd not have a chance, would they? Yeah. I don't. Yeah, Newcastle haven't been great in the Champions League. I just don't see how Newcastle could have done well in that group. Yeah, the ideal group for them would have been like, as I said, Leipzig, probably Celtic. And probably Barcelona as well, maybe, because they can beat Barcelona. This Barcelona team isn't that good. It's one of the best teams in the world, but it's not that great. Like, the team itself is one of the best teams in the world, but like the starting 11, not great. Lewandowski is on fire, obviously, but Newcastle could beat that Barcelona team. They could beat that Leipzig team, and they can definitely beat Celtic. So they'd probably come second in that group if they had Barcelona, Celtic, and Leipzig in there. They could probably top that group. But yeah, things just don't work out sometimes. Newcastle are out the Champions League. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do, which means like, subscribe, turn post notifications on, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.